You got John McMullen and Jody McDonald, a.k.a. Mac here on Birds 365. We're lucky enough to get Andrew DiCecco from InsideTheBirds.com, one of their columnists and reporters, to jump in with us today. Andrew, we still have almost 3 weeks to go in the draft before the draft hits. What the hell are we going to talk about for 3 weeks until we actually get to the draft? It's going to be that little slim pickings time of the year where all we do is mock our lives away.
It's kind of like that gray area with June and up until training camp. But I mean, we're going to be, looking at dissecting the Contavious Street signing and Terrell.
Yeah, Contavious. By the way, Contavious Street, really impressive guy.
Yeah,
really is.
How about that? I thought that he said some really interesting things in his presser. You were there, John, and you got to ask him some of those questions. But really interesting guy. I'm not suggesting that he has some of the same intangibles as a Javon Hargrave, but the Eagles really do need
he's pocket. Good yeah, he's a solid
pocket pusher. Yeah. And last season he played a career high in snap share, 46%. So that tends to suggest that maybe he has turned the corner from his extensive injury history. So could be a high upside signing, or at least a moderately intriguing upside signing.
Yeah, it's funny. Jody says, what are we getting? There's always something. Slay's out there on Twitter this morning going back and forth with Tyreek Hill. Evidently, Jamal Dean, who's the Tampa Bay quarterback, put out, if each of the 32 teams use their fastest defensive back, linebacker, running back, and wide receiver, who's got the best 4x100 team?
Oh, they did that on Good Morning Football this morning.
Did they?
That's where he got the idea from.
That's probably where he got it from. So I went back and said the Eagles would win, of course. And then Ty Hill came in and said, Slay, sit this one out, bro. I'm not going to say much because Eagles fans are already delusional. And I can tell you from being in Miami, Tyreek Hill, Darius Slay cannot keep up with Tyreek Hill.
Not even close.
But the Eagles have a ringer. And that ringer is Devin Allen.
Absolutely.
I don't think anybody knows.
I had forgotten about Devin Allen.
Absolutely. Who would be on your 4x1 if you're picking the Eagles? Because I think it was one defensive back, one linebacker, right? One receiver.
That's it. Linebacker, boy, I guess it would have to be Sean Bradley.
Davion. I would say Davion Taylor.
Oh, Davion. I forgot about Davion. Yeah, you're right. Davion, linebacker, defensive back. Probably Greedy now, right?
Yeah, I would think so. I certainly wouldn't put Slay in that conversation.
Well, Slay
will put Slay in that conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah, Slay ran really well coming out. He still says he runs that way, but
a 4.3 he ran coming out. I don't think he's running a 4.3.
That's not happening anymore.
Yeah. Well, nobody can keep up with Tyreek. Devin Allen can, but nobody on the football field can keep up with Tyreek Hill.
No.
What were the other positions? Wide receiver,
running back.
Quez is obviously the wide receiver. Quez can run.
Well, Devin Allen, right? You could if you're taking anybody.
Right, if you got to use Devin Allen, he's got to be your wide receiver.
Ringer. I don't consider him, but he's a ringer. He's the guy you bring in just to win the race.
Christian Ellis would be an interesting player too. He ran a 4.57. at his pro day. But what about running back? That's where it's a little tricky because I mean, numbers would tell you that Boston Scott, he ran a 4.4, but you look at him straight line speed, I certainly wouldn't pick Boston Scott.
Run a 4.4?
I believe he ran a 4.4 coming out, but he certainly doesn't play to that speed.
No.
Yeah. I don't know. Sometimes I think some of those stopwatches are all Penn State created. That Penn State is famous for fudging their numbers a little bit.
I was at their pro day last year and looking at those numbers, I said, wait, this can't be right. Everybody just beat a world record. That's not possible. And me and my friend Mike Kay were like, this can't be right. And, sure enough, the numbers were completely off and they had to redo them. So
now, every once in a while, you say, you look at Micah Parsons and you say that can't be right, but it is right. Every once in a while they got somebody who is that athletic. But I digress. I thought that was just fun. Tyreek Hill and Darius Slay going back and forth. We'll stick with the draft, Andrew, and the fact that there's been a lot of Jalen Carter talk this week because Drew Rosenhaus basically cut off his visits outside the top 10, saying, all right, if you're in the top 10, he'll come visit. If you're not, he won't. And Daniel Jeremiah then sort of put that 2 and 2 together and said the Eagles probably have given Drew the wink, wink. Hey, if he's there, we're going to take him at 10. You buying that?
Absolutely, I am. Knowing the Eagles and how they prioritize the trenches, knowing that he is the best player in this draft, at least in my opinion, he could be the face of your defense, John, for the next, 10 years. And the Eagles really do need more young building blocks on defense to complement Josh Sweat. So I think that even if he's within striking distance at 7 or 8, I could see the Eagles possibly being aggressive to go up there and secure him because obviously you're going to want Dom to do his due diligence and the Eagles to make sure that everything's all right on his end because obviously high character is a big concern. Character is something that they don't take lightly. So you want to make sure everything checks out there. But if he's within striking distance, I think the Eagles would definitely be aggressive and grab him.
Right. And here's the reason it makes sense to me. And John said earlier, it could be the Eagles' easiest pick that the Eagles have ever made. If he is there at 10, you can't get the card in fast enough to say we're going to take maybe the most talented player in the draft at number 10. That just doesn't happen. But this is all under the assumption that the Eagles have done their investigation and they think it was just one bad night and he's not the troublemaker that some people – and, oh, by the way, a whole bunch of teams are going to have disagreed with you who passed on him between wherever you put the quarterbacks and getting down to 10. But if the Eagles say we're good with him, well, then, yeah, it's easy. They're going to take him at 10. So why wouldn't they tell his agent, listen, we did our due diligence. We did our research. We're within 3 weeks of the draft. And unless he goes out and gets himself in trouble over the next 2 weeks, we'll take him if he gets down to 10. If that helps them in their relationship with that particular agent, it only makes sense for them to do something like that, does it not?
Absolutely. And to take that a little bit further, Jody, the Eagles have the right they have the coaching staff and the leaders in place, I think, to sort of mitigate any sort of potential, concern that teams may have. I think that the Eagles are one of those teams you would feel comfortable with if he lands there because they have the right structure in place to make sure that he's going to get off on the right foot. And so to me, that would make, I agree with you. I think that would make a lot of sense. And I think it would be a no-brainer for the Eagles. I don't think they can get that card in fast enough.
Now, from my perspective, Andrew, everybody else is doing their due diligence. And if everybody else comes to the same conclusion as the Eagles and say, this kid is worth, we're not going to red flag him. He's worth keeping on the board. I don't think there's any way he lasts till number 10.
No.
So it's kind of a catch-22, right? If there's some issues, he might. If there's no issues, no way. Does that complicate things? Or do you start, if there's some issues, and say, all right, well, Peter Skoronski or Nolan Smith or whomever is more rock solid, we'll turn in that direction.
I think it's a multi-layered conversation, John, because there are certain wrenches that can get thrown in that pushes talent down the board. I think there could be a run on quarterbacks. I think a team might be enamored with an Anthony Richardson with his intangibles. Even a Will Levis, I think, could end up, you know how teams are and how they view quarterbacks in the draft, possibly even the offensive tackles like a Paris Johnson from Ohio State or a Broderick Jones, maybe one of the corners. All of a sudden, you start to see that talent slide down. And even if he is, like I said, 7 or 8, you could see the Eagles be like, okay, well, we have a chance to add the premier player in this draft, a blue chip prospect. Let's go and do it.
Is he good enough where you package 10 and 30 to go up a few spots?
I think he is, John. And I think that maybe they might not even have to package 30, especially if we're talking about possibly moving up maybe 2 spots. I think that possibly their second round pick 62. But I think he is, to answer your question, he is good enough to do that. And knowing how the Eagles prioritize the defensive line, I don't know that they would hesitate on that to add a player that in most drafts would be the top overall player.
Defensive line is going to be, I think, a high potential. If we're talking about percentages of who the Eagles going to take, certainly if he should fall to him at number 10, they'll go D tackle. But if not, it's going to be an edge guy. John kind of likes the kid from Pittsburgh. I do too, but I just don't think he merits being a top 10 pick in the draft. give us your rankings of the edge guys specifically for the Eagles, assuming all of them are there, which we know they won't be. At least one, if not two, if not three of them are gone before we ever get to 10. But hypothetical, all of them are available at number 10. What order do you think the Eagles will have them prioritized in?
Will Anderson, but Will Anderson, I believe, will go top 5. Tyree Wilson's a player who I really like. Then it becomes interesting because you have someone like a Nolan Smith, who is undersized but tremendously athletic, twitchy player that I think would really complement what the Eagles already have there, Jody. Then you have Lucas Van Ness from Iowa.
Let me interrupt you there. Would complement what the Eagles have.
But as far as athletic, like a Josh
I disagree.
Sweat.
I think it will reproduce what the Eagles have. That's why I don't like him, because I think he is a carbon copy of Hassan Reddick. Can you really get away with playing two pretty undersized guys on the defensive line, even if they're great pass rushers?
I think because of their athleticism and the mismatches that they provide, they're a big play waiting to happen. And, it's a little bit less, it's a little bit less safe, if that makes sense. You're taking a player that can really take over a game if he's able to get around that edge. And there hasn't been a lot of tackles, obviously, that can really handle his athleticism. So I think that when you look at the big play potential from someone like that, that's what you want. When you're taking somebody at 10, you want somebody that can really be a game changer. And I think that he could be that. The Eagles have shown interest in Lucas Van Ness, the defensive end from Iowa. I think that taking him at 10, honestly, would be a reach. So you could possibly see them trade back for somebody like that. This is a player who's never started at the collegiate level. That's not the way that Iowa does things. They had 2 fifth-year defensive ends that started in front of them. Van Ness played a lot of snaps. Really explosive, twitchy player. I think that he would be – you could probably get him at anywhere from 15, 17, 18 there. And then there's different players down the board that I like. Will McDonald would be an ideal pick at 30 if the Eagles were to stand pat there. So it all depends on what they're looking for and with the intangibles that they're looking to add to that defensive line. But there's going to be some options there.
Yeah, Van Ness, Andrew, is an interesting player because I always say edge rusher more than any other position. There's always a surprise. Now there's, guys fall in love. Cleveland Farrell with Mike Mayock I always bring up. Marcus Davenport. The Saints traded a future first to go up and get Marcus Davenport. There's always a player. To me, Van Ness, you mentioned, he wasn't even a starter in college, and everybody's like, well, the NFL people like him more than people outside looking in. He's the guy who I would not be shocked at all if he's a top 10 pick.
Wow, top 10. Well, yeah. I could see the logic behind that, John. And would you be surprised if he was an Eagles target? Because I think
no, I wouldn't be. Now he clearly would be behind Anderson and
Wilson.
But I think those guys are going before the Eagles. Now you start doing the math. I think 3 quarterbacks are going. I still think Will Levis might fall a little bit. And I think that could be something that's a big draft night story. So if 3 quarterbacks are off the board, 2 edge rushers, maybe a corner, at least 1 offensive lineman, maybe 1 corner, all of a sudden the math starts falling in the Eagles' favor. But, if Carter's in that picture as well, you should be able to get a really good player at number 10. I don't think they should trade out of 10. They're going to get a really good player. And usually when you're a good team, you're not in a position to get a really good player. So I've asked this of a lot of guys, and I respect your knowledge of the draft, and I'll ask you, how many really blue chip players are in this draft?
I would always blue chip is a term that I don't take lightly. So I would probably say maybe only 3.
Yeah.
It's really
the most I've heard is like 6 to 8. That and most are most take the under.
Yeah, I would say maybe 3, 4 at max, in my opinion. That's blue chip is like I said, it's a term that I don't like to throw around casually.
And are any quarterbacks?
In my opinion, no, I don't. I don't think any of them are quarterbacks. I think that obviously the position is going to dictate where they get drafted ultimately, but I don't see any of those players as immediate difference makers, someone that's going to really elevate an offense. Is certainly not from day one.
So even doing your math, even if you lock it at 3 and 4 quarterbacks go in the top 10, then all of a sudden you're getting closer and closer to getting one of those blue chip players. You're not going to be in a position to get them. But if it's 6, you're in a position to get one, especially if the quarterbacks go. So I don't know if I want to trade out of that spot.
I probably wouldn't, but knowing how the Eagles are, if one of those guys that they really covet isn't there, you could see them maybe trading down and grabbing us Peter Skoronski from Northwestern. But I think that I agree with you, John. I think it makes sense. When are the Eagles ideally ever going to be in this position again to add a blue chip type of talent? Which I think that if the board falls the way that I envision it falling, they could be able to grab one of those guys, which is incredible to think about.
If you got none of the quarterbacks as blue chip guys, and you say you got 3, I'm assuming Carter, Anderson, who's the third?
See, I think Bijan Robinson's a blue chip player, but
everybody does. But I don't even put him in the equation for the Eagles. Am I wrong?
I don't put him. I think there's a snowball's chance in hell that he goes 10, but I don't know.
I take 10 off the board. Eagles aren't taking him. Agreed. How far does a blue chip guy like Bijan Robinson, playing at a position that the league has devalued, who's the team who says, stop, we can't pass this guy? According to Andrew DiCecco, he's one of 3 blue chip players in the draft. How the hell do we not take him at number blank? What's that blank number?
I think just because of position, he's going to tumble a little bit. I can sort of see this sort of unfolding. You know how draft night goes. You see they focus the camera on somebody, and they're like, how is he still there? Some teams waiting to go.
The green room. We love the green room. Love to see people sweating the green room.
They're like, look at him. A team's waiting to go up and get him. I could see him maybe going 17 to anywhere from 17 to 20 if the Eagles, and I don't think the Eagles are going to take him at 10. You could sort of see that happening anywhere from maybe, 15 to 20.
Yeah. They're going to be in a position to do, and they have a bit of a luxury. I mean, we're talking about a Super Bowl team with 2 first-round picks. So there's some, luxury built into that. And Howie has proven it's not even necessarily going to be about this year. Could be about next year. Could be about cornerback. Could be about offensive tackle, the heir apparent to Lane Johnson, who might start at right guard. A lot of different ways they can go. One interesting player we haven't mentioned is Miles Murphy, who just recently had sort of his own personal pro day. He's a guy who, I don't know, he seems to have gotten lost in the shuffle a little bit. You think it was because of the late pro day, because because early in the process, he was on a lot of top 10 lists.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the late pro day sort of hurt him a little bit, but I think he might be one of those players, John, that you see have one of those late resurgence. Like, the week before the draft, when you hear that, we call it smokescreen week, all of a sudden he's on a lot of teams' boards as being a potential top 10 pick. I think he's going to go a little bit higher maybe than some of these mock drafts currently have him going, because when we look at his traits, he has translatable traits that I think that you can be a plug and play defensive lineman from day one.
I actually have him ranked with Wilson as the 2 and 2A behind Anderson. I hope that he's the guy that I'm hoping Eagles draft if they do go defensive and an edge at the number 10 spot. We've mentioned this many a time. We'll do it many a time over the next 2+ weeks. Last year, Philadelphia Eagles had three, count them, 3 first-round draft picks. Those picks were selected at the spots the Eagles had them no times. Howie didn't use any of those 3 picks in the spot where they actually were. Traded 1 for A.J. Brown, traded 1 to the Saints for the future first-round draft pick that they're benefiting from this year, and they moved up from where they were at to get Davis in the middle. Howie loves to deal, and I give him credit for it. I think if it's one of his highest traits. If you go back and rank Howie on everything that it takes to be a good general manager, this is one of the things that he does best. I say it. You 2 guys both nodded your head. You say it. The other general managers in the league, do they go, Howie Roseman. He won Executive of the Year. He's beat me in trade day deals before. Why the hell would I deal with Howie Roseman? No way. Don't even answer the phone. Eagles are calling. Hang up. Don't take that call. Is there any chance the Eagles feel the pinch of that this year?
They haven't so far, despite, his track record. So I think he's certainly going to try it. I anticipate him being able to do it. He's a smooth car salesman, and whatever he says, it sounds enticing. And I think he's looking. I mean, what he's able to do, Jody, is really remarkable because he's able to see through it and look into the future. And he always seems to, more often than not, he comes out on top.
Yeah. By the way, Howie hates when people say that. Hates it. Hates it.
Hates what?
When people say he fleeces people. He does not like it.
Because of what I just said. He might get enough people annoyed at him that they say, well, I'm not even going to take his call anymore. He's fleeced me before. I'm not going to let him fleece me again. That's why he hates it.
Well, we had Blake Bedingfield on the show who worked for the Titans for 20 years, basically. And he said, Howie got the GM fired, basically, which he did.
Fleeced them. Exactly right,
and,
Johnny Mac.
He should have gotten Mickey Loomis fired, So, people are going to start figuring that out, maybe. But, I will say he hates when people say it. Now, one issue with this team, and I think it's an issue, and I might be the only one who thinks it's an issue, because obviously the Eagles don't think it's an issue. But if they were going to play a game today, Andrew, and the Phillies are finally, but the Eagles are not, luckily, your starting linebackers would be Nakobe Dean and Nicholas Morrow, the famed 18th century author that we all love. That's not good enough. So I need a starting off-ball linebacker in the second or third rounds. Is that possible in this draft?
Well, I think first of all, I agree with you. Their linebacking situation is, in my opinion, problematic, and to put it mildly, you can't go into a season with Nicholas Morrow and Nakobe Dean as your two starting linebackers. That being said, John, I do think that you can get somebody maybe like a Jack Campbell from Iowa, who I do like a lot. Iowa players transition traditionally to the NFL level pretty fast, which is what they need. In the third round, I like a player named Dorian Williams from Tulane. He's 6'1", 235, very athletic, good sideline-to-sideline prowess, specializes in coverage. I think he would pair nicely with Nakobe Dean, a little bit bigger in size than Nakobe. So I think the Eagles are really going to miss that size that TJ Edwards had there, because having two small guys really makes you vulnerable up the middle. I think they need to keep that in mind moving forward. But those are two guys that I would circle. You also wonder if maybe I can't see them dealing a pick for a linebacker, but maybe looking at a linebacker who has maybe 1 year left on their rookie deal or something like that. Because they
Chauncey Gardner-Johnson route.
Right. They need an instant guy that they can plug and play, because right now what they have isn't good enough.
All right, Andrew, I asked this question of John Stolness, who we had in hour number one. Same question for you. When the Eagles open up next season against, we don't know. We got to wait till May when the schedule comes out. We know who they're playing. We just don't know when they're playing them. But whoever week one's opponent could be Kansas City, and Kansas City rematch of the Super Bowl. The Eagles wide receiver 3, when they go to 3 wideouts for maybe even the first play of the game, wide receiver 3 is going to be who? Is it going to be Quez Watkins still? Will it be a still to be determined acquired free agent, a draft pick, second, third, maybe a fourth or fifth, if they got those kind of picks? Who is going to be the Eagles wide receiver 3 on opening day of next year?
Love this question. I don't think it'll be Quez. I think he is best suited to be a 4. That being said, I think they go the free agent route, maybe get a 25-year-old low-cost option like Olamide Zaccheaus.
No, everybody loves this kid from Atlanta.
Well,
something's going on there.
Well,
Andrew.
I've written about him. I've tweeted about him. I was at his pro day at Virginia, actually, when I was there to see Juan Thornhill. Really good kid. Went to St. Joseph's Prep, so he's local. He has local ties. Good short area quickness, sure-handed. can contribute as a punt returner, which you're getting multi-value there, which I think is appealing. Coming off a career season in a lackluster Atlanta offense, I think that there's a lot to like there. Low risk, high reward, or moderate reward, at least signing, and gives you a little bit more of a sure.
So why? So I'm with you. I brought up that name as well.
Yep.
Plus, he's a pure slot guy,
right?
And Quez isn't. So what's going on? He's 25. Why isn't he signed at this point?
It could come down to financials, but I also think that his height, he's 5'8", 195, works against him a little bit there. Obviously, Isaiah McKenzie was somebody who was cut loose, and he's even smaller than that. But I think that maybe Zacchaeus sees this as, hey, I'm 25 years old. Just like you said, John, he was not drafted. He wasn't invited to the combine. This might be his chance to get to sort of dictate what he's going to make. Obviously, if you're in third wave of free agency, you're not going to get a lucrative bag here thrown at you. But I think it could come down to financials.
All right. If I give you the choice of these two guys, deal's the same. 1 year, $2 million. That's the going rate at about this time. There's a whole bunch of guys didn't even get that. Wide receivers who was signed here in free agency. But let's use a nice round number. 1 year, $2 million. Zacchaeus or Jarvis Landry? Which would you rather have for the same exact 1 year deal?
For a 1 year deal, I probably would have Jarvis Landry, because I think the Eagles really need a chain moving wide receiver, maybe like a Jason Avant, somebody that Jalen Hurts can go to in clutch moments. Landry has about as sure hands as you're going to find. And I think somebody that he's not going to break a number, break a long one, but I think that he can move the chains and get you your 10 yards and a first down, which is what they really need to keep the offense moving cohesively.
Another pure slot guy, which is the reason why I like him. Because, but again, I don't know. He's still sitting out there? Why? Why would he be? He's been a wide receiver 1, let alone a wide receiver 2, and you're asking him to be a wide receiver 3. Well, he did that better than unemployed, and all these guys are sitting out there without jobs. So at some point, they have to say, "All right, I got to cut the best possible deal that I can." All right. Last one for me, Andrew, and thank you very much as always for hopping on board. Will Howie Roseman do a deal? If we all assume that Howie's going to sucker somebody, what's the word he can't stand, John? Fleece?
Yeah, fleece. Yeah,
if he's going to fleece someone, is it going to be day of draft? Will it be before? Because the Eagles have done that, right? The Carson Wentz thing. They made a trade before they made a trade to get up to take Carson Wentz. So sometimes it's a process you got to go through to get there. What do you think the timing's going to be on Howie's draft moving?
I think it would be the day of the draft, and I do think that it would happen, just given the amount of holes that the Eagles have versus the amount of picks that they have. Obviously, you're not going to be able to satisfy all their needs in one foul swoop there, but I think that when you look at linebacker, they need a starter. When you look at safety, they need a viable starter. It's sort of a crapshoot in the draft once you get past the first and second round as far as players that can be a plug-and-play option. So I think that you may see that entice Howie to maybe go for a player, kind of like what they did in late August for C.J. Gardner-Johnson.
Yeah, it makes sense. At Andrew DiCecco, make sure you follow Andrew on Twitter. Read him at InsideTheBirds.com. Before you get out of here, I'll ask you number 30. We focused on 10.
Mm-hmm.
Number 30. And remember, there's only 31 picks in the first round this year because of the Dolphins. So, and their hijinks. 5th-year option comes into play. Sometimes you can take advantage of it, especially if teams want to get a quarterback and they want that extra year. You can fall down a few spots. Hendon Hooker, he's older, coming off an ACL as well. Where do you have him going? Could he be in that mix 30, or is he on? I've heard people say he's going to go higher than that. Where do you think? Where do you think of Hendon Hooker?
Yeah, people have sort of alluded to him going even higher than that, but I think he'll sort of round out the first round, just given the positional value. And you're right, there could be a team that becomes, they want to grab a quarterback, so they contact the Eagles. And if the Eagles were to trade back guys, that's anywhere between 62, where they would pick next, and 30. That's a sweet spot for a lot of good players, particularly safety Antonio Johnson from Texas A&M, some good offensive linemen there. might be able to get a corner like a Deonte Banks. So I think that there would be it would be a good move for the Eagles if they do opt to do that.
All right, last question, most important one. If you and Jeff Mosher and Adam Kaplan are all going out to lunch together, who's the quickest to the wallet to pick it up? Who's the slowest to the
better
wallet?
be Kaplan.
Probably Jeff. I might say Jeff, but I think I'm going to give you a politically correct answer. I think we all would look to pick up road.
Same exact timing. That is a completely politically correct answer and 100% BS. But we appreciate it because we throw BS around here for 2 hours every single day. Andrew, great stuff. Appreciate you coming on board. Tell the boys we send our regards. Thank you much. We'll get you on again before the draft rolls around.
My pleasure, guys. Take care.
Thanks,
Andrew DiCecco from Inside the Birds.
I'm going to reach for that check and hope that, I'm going to be strategic about it. I'm going to wait to see Jody Mack start to reach, and then I'm going to reach.
Okay. All right.
Hope you beat me to it.
Are you? Let me see. Yeah, I got longer arms than you. That's probably a pretty good play on your part. If we go at the same time, I'm probably going to get it.
Length. That's big. Lengthy arms. That's big.
Yeah, exactly right. Draft day considerations and check grabbing considerations. Who's got the lengthiest reach? All right, he's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. We'll come back. We'll put a bow on the show here on Birds 365.